Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Harris and I am a personal trainer and lifestyle coach. And today I wanted to talk to you about our gut health and the microbiome. My life intention is to basically thrive. And so my work and everything I do in the health and fitness industry is to help inspire others to do the same. So today we're going to talk about a really important element to our health and well-being, because without it, how can we thrive? And it's our gut. I would say it's the cornerstone to our health. If our gut is functioning well, the rest of us usually is as well. So let's talk about basically what the gut is. It's a long tube that basically keeps out foreign invaders from our body from making us sick, but it also helps us digest and eliminate our food. It starts in our mouth, and we actually have enzymes within our mouth that break down carbohydrates. We go down our esophagus into our stomach, and our stomach is the place where we break down more proteins, and it's actually very acidic in there, so it can actually eliminate pathogens and stuff like that from coming into our body. And then it goes into the small intestine, and this is a place where we absorb it the most. And then we have all the waste from that go into our colon and basically out through the rectum. So what is the microbiome? Well, the microbiome is literally microbes that exist all around our body, and today we're going to specifically talk about our gut microbes. What are these microbes? They're basically bacteria, yeast, and protozoa. And protozoa are basically single-cell microscopic animals, so little bugs that exist all over our body. Did you know that more than half our cells are microbes? So we have half microbes and we have half human cells. We also have a diverse amount of microbes. Over 500 species exist in our bodies, and they help us with our health and the functioning of our body. So like I was saying, number one is it assists in our immunity, where 70% of our immunity exists in our gut. It also helps us assimilate and digest our nutrients. It also helps with the creation of vitamin K, which is necessary for bone and arterial health, and also some water-soluble B vitamins that are essential for our energy. Our gut and our gut microbes break down our hormones and excrete them. And some studies suggest it can affect our metabolism. So if we have a bunch of bad bacteria running around in our gut, that can actually lead to things like obesity. So that brings me to talking about something called dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is when we have more bad bacteria to good bacteria in our guts. And this can lead to things like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or leaky gut, where our guts break down and we can basically have food particles passing in and creating an immune response in the body. You might want to be aware of the other symptoms of dysbiosis, and they include upset stomach, bloating, because basically you're fermenting things in the gut, constipation, diarrhea, fatigue, joint pain, brain fog, poor concentration, anxiety, depression, obesity, skin conditions, irritable bowel syndrome, and some autoimmune diseases. So how do we grow a robust and resilient gut garden? Well, I've got 4 ways that I wanted to share with you today. Number 1, I always go back to diet. So Dr. Michael Ruscio wrote a great book, Healthy Gut, Healthy You. And in it, he talks about how an anti-inflammatory diet that balances blood sugar is the best diet that we can have. Now, there comes a caveat there, because not one diet fits for everybody. So there's some experimentation here. However, what I can say, in order to have a diet that is low in inflammation and balancing blood sugar, we need to eat in accordance to our biochemical individuality. So what does that mean? Well, depending on where your ancestors came from and the environment that they were in, it determines what foods work best for them. So for most Westerners, eating something like the Hunza diet, which is a very healthy population in Africa, may not work for us. Same could be said true about the information in the China study. In China, the foods that work for them, but for a Westerner, they may not work the best. What seems to be the best type for most Westerners is a low carbohydrate diet. So you can play around with this, because like I said, there is no one diet that fits all. I like to go back to Dr. Hyman's diet, the Pagan diet. So if I could just review that if you haven't seen my previous videos, but this is a diet that is nutrient rich and doesn't have any or is low in refined or processed foods. So if I could explain it, basically if you look at your plate, 75% of your plate could be or should be low glycemic vegetables. You know, green leafies are usually a good indication that they're low glycemic. The other 25% of your plate can be pasture-raised animals and wild fish, which are rich in omega-3s, such as salmon, sardines, and mackerel. You also want to have some healthy fats with that, so you can do nuts and seeds. However, you want to make sure that you don't overload on things like pistachios and peanuts, because they have something called myotoxins in them that can kind of affect our energy levels, so we want to be very careful with those ones. Avocados, olives, coconut oil, olive oil, and grass-fed butter are all great healthy oils. If you don't have blood sugar issues, you can also do gluten-free grains on this diet, which is black rice, quinoa, amaranth, millet, teff, and oats, and also legumes such as lentils, chickpeas, black beans, and pinto beans. But I want to have a caveat there. If you do suspect you have some issues with the bacterial overgrowth, eating legumes could actually exacerbate that. So just to be careful when you do eat them, be careful and watch how you feel after you've eaten them. And also one of the things that Dr. Russo talks about is he promotes a diet free from the common allergens, such as dairy and gluten are the top two, but also corn, soy, and eggs can also be an allergy or create a sensitivity in our bodies. One of the things that I suggest with people is take it out for 21 days and then one at a time, bring them back in and see if you have a negative effect. Your body will tell you right away if you're struggling with those foods. So I'm curious, do you feel your food? I have always said this to my clients. You will know half an hour to an hour after you eat how your food is being digested and assimilated in the body. If you feel anything but a sense of well-being and energy, then you might consider making some alternative food choices. Also, you might also want to consider, again, if we've got any sort of dysbiosis going on, you can experience things like upset stomach, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, fatigue, joint pain, brain fog, poor concentration, anxiety, depression, skin conditions, and irritable bowel syndrome. So just to be aware, 30 minutes to an hour after you eat has a huge impact on telling you what's working. Number 2, feed your gut with pre and probiotics. So probiotic foods such as sauerkraut, kefir, yogurt, kombucha, miso, kimchi, pickled foods, natto, tempeh, soy sauce, and fermented tofu. And you also want naturally fermented soy sauce as well. Those are all probiotic rich foods. So those are full of these microbes we're talking about and help support your own microbes. So we need to be particularly careful with prebiotic foods. Prebiotic foods are foods that basically feed the microbes. But remember, if you've got a dysbiosis where you have more bad bacteria than good, you don't want to be feeding those bad bacteria. So again, notice if you eat things like Jerusalem artichoke, garlic, onion, leeks, asparagus, bananas, chicory root, and dandelion greens. All those are prebiotic foods, so just make sure half an hour after you eat, are you feeling those in negative ways? Also, the other thing with probiotic foods that you want to be aware of is there's something some of us have, which is histamine intolerance. So have you ever noticed that you have a runny nose after you eat something, or flushing, or even irritability and brain fog? Those can also be indications that you are histamine intolerant. Number 3, our mental state. Our mental state has a huge effect on our gut for a few reasons. 70% of our serotonin is created in the gut. So you can imagine if there's a sort of a war going on between the good and the bad bacteria, it's not going to be as efficient in producing those neurochemicals. The other thing too is we have a gut-brain axis. So through the vagal nerve, if we're stressed, what happens is it goes right into our gut, and alternatively it goes back into our brain. So if we've got a digestive issue, it can go the other way as well. So of course, then therefore it's best to reduce or eliminate or even move into a place of acceptance with our stress. And one of the things I always come back to, which is such a great prayer that I remember frequently when I'm stressed, is this. It's the Serenity Prayer. So it goes, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. What a great reminder of how to let go or deal with the things that are bothering us. Other ways that you can deal with your mental health, and I've talked about this before. Again, the great diet is, you can't go wrong with that. Cardiovascular exercise, meditation, even some simple breathing practices can regulate that vagal nerve tone. And also, I always go towards therapy. When I can't figure it out, I go to my therapist and I work it out from there, and that usually works really well. One of the other things that I do is I tend to ruminate with stress. So sometimes the pressure starts to build up, especially when we just went into a third lockdown recently. I could feel the pressure building up and my head starting to spin. And what was amazing was when I had Zoom dinner with one of my girlfriends, she just sat and listened to my frustrations and whatnot. And I kind of let it all out. And then after, I just felt so much better. So having a friend that can listen, and also being cognizant of, not overdoing it with people's time or energy, but just a brief kind of like letting it go really helped me move into a better space. So having a friend that can listen is so imperative. Number 4, most importantly with all this, it's really important to not self-diagnose. So if you suspect that you have a challenge with dysbiosis or SIBO or leaky gut, you might want to contact a health practitioner skilled in gut health. So there are functional medicine practitioners. There's also really skilled people at the CHEK Institute. They have a great program called the Holistic Lifestyle Coaching Program, and the higher levels will get you to a more functional place with your gut. Also a naturopath or a nutritionist, but make sure that they are both, a nutritionist is, but just make sure they are both, focused on diet, not just supplements, and also gut health. It's really important to have that specialty there. I have a 5-day challenge for you. How about you pick one meal a day, and for 30 minutes to an hour after, you notice how you feel. Again, if your body doesn't feel energized or you feel a sense of well-being, you could be having an issue with some gut imbalances. So again, I just want to review what those symptoms are. Do you have any of the following short-term symptoms after you eat? A drop in energy, indigestion, an upset stomach, bloating, constipation and diarrhea, brain fog, fatigue, joint pain, anxiety, depression, skin conditions, and maybe even irritable bowel syndrome symptoms. In summary, number 1, again, try and eat an anti-inflammatory blood sugar balancing diet like the Pagan Diet, and also maybe eliminating some of those food allergies I mentioned, dairy and gluten being the first big 2, and then corn, soy, and eggs. Number 2, enrich your diet with pre and probiotics. Number 3, manage your stress with a great diet, cardiovascular exercise or exercise in general, meditation, breathing practices, and maybe even talking to a friend or therapist. And number 4, you might want to get help from a skilled practitioner who specializes in gut and diet. So if we can get our guts together, we can feel better, look better, and perform the best in our daily lives. And like I said, we can start to thrive. If you found this helpful, please pass it on to your friends or family. And also, if you want to reach me, you can reach me through my website at wellnessdesign.ca.